Islam. Good afternoon, family. This is Khalifah Abdullah Bey. This time with another edition of today. I'll just say who's who and what's what. Tomorrow we might want to call it something else. Okay. All right. Today we're going to talk about some Moors called Abkhazians. Allegedly, and as I say allegedly, they are allegedly supposed to be descendants of something called African Caucasians. Okay, the correct way or the correct title for these peoples are Moors, as Moors being the first Caucasians. So, whoever the author is of this particular article has it twisted. He's calling them African Caucasians. And there are no such people. Okay? Because we know that an African is an African and a Caucasian is a Caucasian. African being someone who is of African descent and nativity. But a Caucasian is an entirely different person. A Caucasian are the original Moors who inhabited the Russian Georgia region, and they are the true Caucasians. And just to give you a little bit of context, they're saying that this area is now known as Georgia, present-day Georgia. Just to give you some context. Historians, I'd like to know who these historians are. Of course, I already know who they are. They're documenting that black slaves from Africa were transported to the village of Adzuma, which was then part of the Ottoman Empire. Okay. First, what I want to do is I want to straighten this whole thing out because it's totally said wrong. If you read this, you would think that peoples who were part of the Ottoman Empire were just from Africa, which couldn't be farther from the truth. The Ottoman Empire spread or encompassed the entire globe at that time. They're trying to say black African slaves from Africa were transported to this village of Adzuma. And then, as to say, this would be the justification for the reason why there are dark-skinned people in that part of the world. Dark-skinned people were the first inhabitants of any indigenous land. They're the indigenous peoples of every land on this planet. So you're going to have to come at me a little bit better than that. You sit here and say historians, and I'm going to read this for verbatim off of a piece of paper I have here. Historians document that black slaves from Africa were transported to the village of Adzuma, which is then part of the Ottoman Empire. You see? This picture right here is a picture of an Abkhazian, a Moor, or a Caucasian from Russia, specifically the Georgia region, which we call present-day Georgia. In this next picture right here, And this is a lie. They say Peter the Great, the ruler of the Russian Empire from May 7th, 1682 to February 8th, 1725, was said to have imported African slaves to Russia. And you can say that, but it's a lie, because Peter the Great himself was a Moor, or a black man. Okay? I'm not saying that later on in the 19th century that they didn't import Africans from the continent of Africa over to this region for to work the fields and coal mines. I'm not saying that didn't happen. What I'm saying is these peoples, and Peter the Great himself was a Moor. So in other words, he was already there for a very, 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 very long time before any white people set foot over there or even know that there was such thing as Russia. So we just want to get this into the right complex context and get it straightened out. Okay? Then it goes on to say, when some of them were unable to acclimate to the cold climate in St. Petersburg, Russia, they left them in Abkhazia. Okay. As is to say that Abkhazia was a warmer, more moderate climate. Now, I want to ask this author something. Melanated people, very heavily melanated peoples who inhabited this land in this region from thousands of years ago, how did they survive all this time in St. Petersburg or in any other cold climate? How can he sit here and say they couldn't acclimate? That's a misnomer. Of course they could acclimate. They've been doing it for thousands of years. So I'm just kind of breaking this down a little bit and putting it into the right context for you so you can see the lies. And at the same time, I'm showing you or putting the truth out to you, okay? They spoke Turkish, Russian, and Abkhazian. And they had diverse religious beliefs. Remember, Muslims, Christians, Jews. Okay? And they also settled in areas such as Chu, Pokovesh, Agdara, Merkulov, and Sukhumi. So, brothers and sisters, I'm going to put this picture up here right now for you to see. Okay. Let me see if I can get this stick. There we go. Okay. So today's who's who and what's what had to do with the Abkhazians or the Caucasians of Russia, who were originally Moors. And in this picture, we see some mulattoes. Okay, and we know the reason why they were mulatto. This was because of the intermarrying with the Khazarians, or the white Russians. Okay? But these are Moors. Don't let nobody tell you that Caucasians are white people. And we know they call themselves that, but these are your original. These are your true Caucasians. Okay. Okay. So that wraps up today's session of Who's Who and What's What. And this is Khalifah Abdullah Bey, Islam.